Casual Magic has been brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can get cool stuff. Use the code CASUAL for 5% off your order. We're also sponsored by Quiver Time, makers of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine card-holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their site for 10% off your purchase. And by Architect, a deck hosting website that doesn't sell anything, but they like me and I like them, so kindly use them for all your deck list needs. Now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Stephen Button. Casual Magic is brought to you by Architect, Cool Stuff Inc., and Quiver Time. Today I have a very special geist, 3 years in the making. I've tried to get James on since I started this show. So I'm here to welcome Loading Ready Run's arch producer, nemesis, Minecrafter guy, James Turner. Finally, the last of the main members that I haven't got on my show yet. Well, maybe not true. I need to get
there is 600
there's 30 of
us,
you,
so you have a ways to go.
Yeah, I've been slowly chipping my way. I don't want to have all of you at once because that feels kind of a little oh look, Shivan's just talking to his friends.
Yeah.
But that's literally the entirety of the show. Hi James, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to finally sit down and chat with you casually about Magic. So
and just things. I mean, you know what? It's weird. For years and years, I thought you just didn't like me.
I get that a lot. Yeah, I get that a lot. I'm fairly naturally a quiet person.
Mm-hmm.
I like making things happen and then just letting people have fun and experience them. And I have no problem sitting back and just kind of enjoying it and taking it all in. But I think that there are times when I come off as fairly cold and distant because of that, which is something I've been trying to work on a little bit over the last couple of years. But yeah, you were not the first to say that. So.
Well, no, I was like, oh my God, because I know I can be a lot sometimes. I'm like, oh no, did I push too far? Am I getting too familiar? What's going on? But what I realized at the PPR I got to go to, the first one, was that no, this is just, you have a work face where you're like, I have a focus and I have a job to do. And that means schlepping you guys around my town and then getting you to the shot in time. And so I was like, oh, it's not that you like me or don't like me. It's just, you have a job to do, and you are paying attention to the job.
That is fair. Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. I think most of the time that I've gotten that feedback, it's because we've been in a working environment, and especially at the PPR, when I play sort of the producer and the dad of the event. Somebody needs to be constantly keeping an eye on the time and figuring out what needs to happen next and stuff like that. So yeah, I get it.
So jumping off of that for a second, can we talk about Loading Ready Run, for those of you who don't know, I don't know how you don't know, it's weird. You're literally the biggest Magic collective there is short of Command Zone. But beyond that, so Loading Ready Run, roughly speaking, is a sketch comedy troupe based in Canada that does a bunch of that runs a TV channel on Twitch. Let's be real.
Yep.
You guys basically run a TV channel, you got streams, you play games, you do things, and you do fundraisers. What do you do there?
So I guess the role or the title that I have sort of given myself over the last couple years is production manager. So basically the TLDR is I make sure everybody knows where they need to be and when and what they're supposed to be doing when they're there. But then also making sure that all of that also comes together ahead of time, right? So if something needs to get put on the schedule and planned and staffed, that is my job. So do Graham and Paul need to record an episode of Unskippable? They need to come to me and tell me when they want to do it. I'll find them time in the schedule. I'll put it on there. They'll know it's there. All the way to a PPR where I am in charge of booking our guests, booking their accommodations, making sure that we have dinner plans and lunch plans and breakfast plans. We eat a lot at the PPR. I'm sure we'll talk about the PPR soon. And making sure that all the content is being filmed, making sure that Wizards of the Coast knows what's going on. So it's either end, right? It's organizing two people to record a very quick podcast all the way up to something like the PPR. That's sort of my main focus. That's my everyday job that I do most of the time. And then beyond that, I also, I am on screen talent from time to time.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen a lot. I have a weekly Minecraft stream. Sometimes I play Magic, board games, act in their little sketches. But my main focus is on making sure everybody else is set up for success when it comes to the content that we produce.
I think sometimes folks forget that not that you guys, beyond just being like funny people on the screen, are also like doing work and have
Yeah.
functions within the company.
I think we are a little unique in that way that our company is basically I basically number us at 17 at this point, and basically everybody is both forward facing and administrative. Like
Yeah.
everybody has, not everybody, most of us have responsibilities beyond just showing up and entertaining people on camera.
Yeah.
Some more than others, absolutely, but everybody kind of has their own thing that they do behind the scenes as
Yeah,
well.
like, for instance, Ben Ulmer shows up on, like, the horror streams and then also runs the cameras and lighting and things like
Yeah,
that for you guys,
exactly. Yep.
or Paul is always running I mean, I feel like Paul's main focus is more running the desk than
Yes.
on screening, but
Paul is definitely probably the least on screen,
and
but
even he's got a
most
stream.
but one of the most impactful people when it comes to how especially our streams look and feel.
Yeah, I would imagine if he ever got, like, sick and had to take a
Oh, we're
week-long
doomed.
vacation, you guys would just be, like, looking at black screens and, like, your stuff would start blinking and whatever.
Oh yeah, no, I think in the terms of a disaster of people to lose for even a certain amount of time, Paul is like top 3 for sure. Would not be good.
He's, like, probably all 3 of the top 3 slots,
No,
honestly.
no, I'm number 1, then Paul, then everybody else.
How did you get involved with them?
I mean, I've been around since the very beginning. We're recording on, what day is it? August. It's the very end of
30th?
August.
Yeah.
Loading Ready Run turns 20 years old on October 13th. We are a month and a half away from turning 20 years old. I have known Graham since I was in grade 10 and he was in grade 9. He and Paul have known each other since they were in grade like 5 and 6.
Jeez.
Graham's a year younger than Paul and I. Um, and yeah, we started hanging out
In, like, high school?
in high school. We played Dungeons and Dragons together. That's kind of how our friend group came to kind of coalesce. And I don't, if it wasn't for that D&D group, I don't think Loading Ready Run would exist in the form that it does today. And so yeah, I've been around since literally the very beginning. It's basically it's Graham, Paul, and I have been around since literally before it even started. And then Kathleen is probably the second longest running by, a couple months later after we started.
So, okay, well, then I'm really curious about that. If you've been there since literally day 0, um, then how did LRR come about? Like, if you guys are just hanging out and playing D&D, it's there's a bit of a gap between, "Let's do that," and then, "Let's start doing streaming sketch comedy," you know? Like
So, I mean, it's fun. I'll very quickly. It's funny that you were kind of getting into the history. We're actually in the midst of. I just literally came from the office where we recorded a couple episodes of a
oh,
10-episode limited series podcast that we're doing, the history of Loading Ready Run,
oh,
basically.
well,
Really
cool.
excited for people to see it, and a lot of it is going over all of this history. So the very quick version is Graham and Paul have known each other since a very young age. They've always been very creative people. In high school, they started working together, making 3D animated, like little comedy videos, basically like little short films before, way before like Flash or any of this stuff that would allow people to do it. They were jamming on ridiculous programs that weren't really built to make what they were making, but they made a few. Graham ended up winning a video camera in a competition, in a nationwide competition for a video series that he made. And then from there, they're like, what would be really cool? How about how about you and I travel to Europe and like vlog it before vlogging was a thing? Like, this is a thing. Like, they were like,
Was this
let's
after you
film
guys
our
graduated high
adventures.
school?
This is, yeah. So this would have been like just after high school was the plan. The classic, like, we've graduated from high school, let's backpack across Europe. But they're like, let's film it. But then they realized that they needed to save up some money to actually do this journey. But in the meantime, why not start making little short comedy videos and posting them to the internet, which again, 2003, October,
That's
YouTube did not
pre-YouTube.
exist. This predates YouTube. This really just predates video on the internet. Like, it
Yeah,
just
like, that's,
really
like,
wasn't
real
a
media
thing.
at that point or something like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, absolutely. QuickTime basically
Yeah,
baked
QuickTime.
into our website where we paid hosting fees to put these videos up. And they're like, let's start building up an audience. Let's start building up a catalog of work.
How do
And
you build
then
up an audience in 2003? How do
I
people
don't,
even find you?
I don't know. It's just I think one of the first, I can't remember what one of the first big videos that got linked off of something like Boing Boing back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah, so it got linked off of that, and slowly but surely, people started watching our stuff. It started with a couple dozen, and then all of a sudden, it's a couple hundred, and it probably stayed there for a little while until it started to really build up a little later. But they never, they never actually did do that Europe trip. Um, they kind of just kept making videos, and for the first couple years, it was just Graham and Paul and whoever could help. Like, I was involved a lot and a couple of our other friends were involved a lot, but the majority of the work was being done by Graham and Paul. There was no loading ready run crew. There was no, like, there was no hierarchy. There's none of this. It was just like Graham, Paul, and whoever of the friend group, the greater friend group. Because if you go back and watch a couple of those early videos, you're going to see people that you never see again. Um, and that's just kind of how it got going. And then slowly but surely, we sort of coalesced into a crew, and we went from there. So
Yeah, because like, it's wild to imagine that, like, oh, yeah, me and my buddies playing D&D in, like, 10th grade or whatever, into we have an LLC and a company
yeah.
and then, like, the 7th office building, and,
Hmm.
like, we pay taxes and have health insurance,
Yep.
which is, like, wild, right? Like,
Yeah, no, it's definitely, when it started, it was never anything any of us expected to be. None of us were really entertainers or considered ourselves actors or anything like that. It was just kind of something fun to do, and then it just grew and grew, and now here we are.
yeah, I mean, I think my first experience with LRR was, either through, I think it was, like, somebody had linked the first time you guys played Penn and Teller's, garbage
Okay.
game.
Yep.
Like, it was, like, on, I think, Fark or Boing Boing or one of those, like, link aggregators, like, "Look at these guys are playing the worst game of all time."
Yeah.
I think, like, Desert Bus 1 maybe
D-
even.
I mean, Desert Bus was, yeah. So that was 2007. So
Yeah.
that was a couple years after we started, and Desert Bus is a big reason why we are where we are today. That definitely gave us a bit of a push into a much bigger audience. So
Yeah, because Desert Bus was like out of nowhere. There's a random troop of Canadians who are going to play the world's worst game and raise money for like Child's Play or something like
yep,
that. And Child's Play was like, Penny Arcade's children's hospital thing. And that was when Penny Arcade was still good people and that we cared about. And yeah, it was wild because like you guys hit a zeitgeist right at that specific moment in time when like PAX is starting to come up when, or not, PAX actually wasn't even there yet, but it was just like the internet was starting to coalesce into a thing, and you guys did something that was hitting the nostalgia button for all these people who suddenly have internet and time and something are looking for something to do.
yep,
That's actually really lucky,
yeah, oh
honestly.
yeah. No, I mean, and like, I
And it
mean,
was also
even Desert.
hilarious, right? Like people
I mean, it
donate
was.
money to make you play longer.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that we ever expect. I mean, just like Loading Ready Run, it was just kind of a fun idea. We wanted to support this charity. Um, we thought this would be a good idea. Maybe we can raise $5,000. The first year we ended up raising $22,000. And it's just kind of, it just went from there. Like, that's kind of the story of Loading Ready Run and Desert Bus's lives, which is just like, hey, this is a neat idea, we should do this, and then cut to
It's
16 years later or 20 years later in the case of both of those two
and you're like,
things, and we're
we're
still
still doing
going.
it.
you know
I mean, like, it must have been wild that first year or whatever when Penn and Teller actually are, like,
oh
calling
yeah,
you and buying food and everything. You're like, "Oh, they're big famous people, and we're
yeah,
idiots on the couch." I don't understand.
yeah, no, it was wild.
Yeah. Um, so because, like, I remember talking to you when I came up to the PPR, and you were like, "Yeah, man, I've never left Victoria in terms of, like, having lived anywhere else.
Yep.
Like, you've always been kind of on the island there." And it feels like, when did you guys turn LRR into a job? Or when did this become, like, the thing you do for money, I guess?
So I mean, we started to, I think it was 2009. Graham and Paul submitted the their series Unskippable to the Escapist magazine.
Right.
And it basically two things went all the way to the end in this competition, and the Escapist ended up picking up both of them. And so in 2010 or I guess it was 2009 or somewhere around here, Paul and Graham made the switch to full time Loading Ready Run. So they've been full time doing this for the majority of their adult life, which
That's
is
crazy.
It's just wild to think, because like
crazy.
it doesn't feel like it. And I think personally, I came on full time 6 years ago now. Almost, it'll be 7 years in March.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So there was a period of time, excuse me, where I think there's about 4 years where I was part time, and I was splitting my time between my old job and Loading Ready Run pretty evenly. And then it got to the point where I was like, it was like 60-40 between Lur and my old job. And then I worked for my dad, and he finally retired, and I was like, all right, this is a good opportunity for me to get away from this as well. And yeah, so that was
Why? What did he do?
6.5 years ago. What did he do? He worked in, I mean, he still does. He retired for 5 years, and now he basically works again. He got bored. He has worked in the window covering industry for as long as I have been around. So he's been
like
selling
drapes and things,
drapes and blinds and Venetians and all that stuff. And so he's been selling those and installing them since I was a kid. And I worked at McDonald's out of high school for a few years, and I worked my way up the corporate ladder at McDonald's.
I didn't know McDonald's had a corporate ladder.
Oh yeah, absolutely they did. And it got to the point where I was just like, you know what? I think I'm done with this. The company that my dad worked at was expanding into the home closet organizer business. And again, I'd been around this company for my entire life, so the owner knew me and stuff like that. And he's like, hey, would you like to come over and work with us? We'll pay you $16 an hour. Again, this was
That's
2000.
pretty good money.
It's not bad. It was not bad money in 2004 or 5 or something like that. And I was like, absolutely, that sounds great. I put in my notice at McDonald's. They begged me to stay. They're like, you can have, we will get you. You will have your own restaurant in 2 years if you stay with us.
Man,
like,
can you imagine James, the franchisee, with like 12
you
Mickey
can
D's?
manage your own Mickey D's. And I was like, but will you pay me $16 an hour in the meantime? And they're like, oh God, no. Are you kidding me? My manager's like, I don't think I make $16 an hour. So I was like, all right, goodbye. So I took off and I did that for a few years, and then that actually ended up shutting down. My dad was like, hey, do you want to come just install for me? So I ended up basically installing window coverings for about a decade. Basically my late 20s and early 30s is what I was doing. And then I made the move over to full time with Lur, and about 6.5 years ago.
And now you dig holes in Minecraft.
And now I dig holes in Minecraft, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, like it was funny because the other day I was watching. My family and I decided we wanted to rewatch Road Quest.
Okay,
the video that you guys did right before pandemic, where like 6 or 12 of you or whatever went north all the way to the Yukon, and it's a beautiful. Because I was like, I want to just watch something pretty on YouTube, and it was like 4K, and there's all the beautiful vistas and everything. And then we got caught up in the storylines, and my kid was watching because you guys mainly didn't swear, and I was like, perfect, he can watch this, it's fine. And we were sitting there and we were watching, and he's like, Papa, that's the guy that we met in Victoria who digs holes all day. And I'm like, it sure is.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, because like I ran into you guys as humans for the first time in 2016 at PAX, where like there was a big Kaladesh one where they invited random influencers to come and visit and hang out. And it was weird because I was like, Graham knows who I am. I don't understand. But I think like you guys didn't, like, you invited me up in 1918, I don't know, 2018
for the PPR. I honestly,
I don't remember. It was whatever
did not remember.
Guilds of Ravnica or something like that, or the second Ravnica, the second time in the one with Simic, the one with Simic, whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is though, like I got to come up and like it was cool because like when I was there was the same time, literally the day I was in Victoria, the first day I was there, I got invited to join the Commander Advisory Group and
Oh,
like by
okay.
email in Victoria. And I was like, because they basically Sheldon sent me an email saying like, "Hey, why shouldn't you be on this? Blah blah blah, whatever." And I'm like, "Look, I'm going to be on the stream tomorrow, so why don't you just watch me and decide?" And later on, they were like, "Yeah, you look like somebody who would be really fun to play games with." And I was like, "Let's go."
Yeah.
Um, but man, the PPR is such a like. When did you start playing Magic? Before we
Oh,
get to
so
the
first
PPR,
off,
right?
Ravnica Allegiance, January of 2019 is when
Thank
you
you.
were up
Do you
for
have
the
like the full
PPR.
like list or something?
We have a loading ready run wiki, and
Handy.
like a wiki, so I have the page for everybody who's been to a PPR.
I bet you do.
When did I start playing Magic? I started playing Magic in 1994.
Ah, man after
I
my own heart.
Yeah, so I was in grade 5, I think, grade 5 or 6. And I did just well enough, not very well. I was not a great school student, but I did well enough that my parents were like, this report card is adequate. We shall buy you a present. Um, and I was like, hooray! All my friends play Magic the Gathering now, so please, I would like that. So we went down to the local comic store and I got a starter of Revised along with 2 booster packs.
Nice.
And Magic was kind of my whole world for about 2 years, from grade like 6 to 7. Played it at school, played it at home, played it with neighbors. Loved the game. I played in limited, like I went to like sealed events. And
Where they give you like a starter deck and a booster and tell you to build a deck
Yep,
out of it.
and then
Yeah.
just build a deck, and I had a 4-digit DCI number, and it's how I met some people who I still know to this day, which is wild. And so yeah, I played for about 2.5 years, and then I got to high school and I stopped, just because there wasn't really anybody playing. And then in grade
Same.
10, I started playing grade 9 or 10. I started playing D&D, and so that was kind of my nerd focused thing for most of high school. And then in 2000, and then we stopped playing D&D after high school as well. And then in 2009, or no, it was probably 2010, one of the old members of Loading Ready Run, his name is Morgan, started pestering us all to play Magic again with him. He's like, hey, wouldn't this be fun? We should play Magic again. Guys, let's play Magic. Look, it still exists. We should play this game. It's fun. Come play Magic with me. And we were all like, no, we're not. Look, we're not playing Magic. It's the
We've
year
done that.
two. It's 2010. We're not playing Magic anymore. All right. And then we went to PAX West in 2010, which at time of recording is just a few days away. So it's almost exactly 13 years to the day that we went to PAX West, and Wizards of the Coast had put the 30 card intro decks, mono colored 30 card intro decks featuring the Lorwyn 5, in the swag bags. And this
Yeah.
was PAX at a time when we were still just attendees. Like, we weren't going down really as Loading Ready Run. We didn't have panels, we didn't have a booth, we had no real presence. There was no, like, people weren't coming to the show to see us. So we were just there as attendees, waiting in line, just like everybody else. And when you wait in line, you have to find something to do to kill time.
You
And
sure do.
God bless Wizards of the Coast. They're like, how about we put these in every single bag that every single attendee gets? And like, genius.
I to this day hold that is one of the most important and impactful marketing decisions WotC's ever made.
I think so. I mean, certainly for us, it was.
100,000 people are just sitting there playing Magic, waiting in line for panels and stuff.
Yeah, it was incredible. And so we started playing, and then by day 2, we were looking for vendors to buy more cards. And by day 3, we were building decks. And then I remember coming back on the ferry on the Monday, and we just jammed Magic for the entire 3 hours. And then a week later, we started to be like, we should probably institute some sort of spending limit, because number one, we're going to go broke. And number 2, we're going to stop having fun because somebody's going to go out and spend hundreds of dollars on a bunch of cards and just be able to
see, the problem is now you're adult
everybody
and have money.
Yeah, exactly. And so we started playing Magic again. And then in November of 2010, we made what ended up being the backdoor pilot for Friday nights, which was an episode of Commodore Hustle, which is a web series that we used to make and hopefully will one day again. It's basically just us being us. It's just sort of an amped up version of us being us in just sort of goofy situations. And this episode was all about us getting back into Magic, and Wizards saw it and they liked it, and one thing led to another, and then we started making Friday nights for them. So
Yeah. It's funny because, like, I remember in, like, 2008, 2009, they put out the Duels of the Planeswalkers for the Xbox,
yep.
which was, like, the first everybody who's in, like, adult now is like, "Oh, yeah, I remember playing this in high school or middle school or whatever," and, like, "Oh, this is still fun," and then my wife and I went to PAX, and they had those little booster packs in there, and we started jamming, and on the drive home from PAX, we were stopping into Portland at a game store, and we're like, "Oh, we should buy this dual deck that's right here. Oh, we should buy these other dual decks. Oh," and then we come
Yep.
home and suddenly we've just got piles of cards, and now I'm doing this.
Yeah, now look at us. Look at us.
Look at us now,
Look
right?
at us now.
Oh my gracious me. Yeah, because like these all these questions are kind of leading up to like it feels like at some point in like let's say 2014, 2015, LRR itself took a huge like just prominent position in the Magic community. Like there are very few people who I mean there's people who don't interact with you, but everybody knows who you are. And
Hmm.
like between like the PPRs and like Friday nights and like the paper fight that you guys started doing and all this other like Canadian Highlander I mean, the fact that you guys literally took Canadian Highlander, which was played by like 12 people on your island and made it into a global force is unto itself bizarre.
Yeah.
But has it been just like what does it look like from the inside just seeing this kind of exponential Katamari growing larger and larger of people following you for Magic and not the other things you're doing?
I mean, it's definitely
Weird,
like
isn't it?
it's a little weird, and there has absolutely been growing pains over the years because of it. We didn't start as a Magic company, and we
No.
still don't consider ourselves entirely a Magic company, but the reality is that a large portion of the content we make and the viewership that we get is for Magic. And so there's been times over the years where I think some people who work for us or who have worked for us have gotten a little frustrated about the fact that Magic has become such a huge focus. And that goes for even the rest of us too. It's sometimes we're like, man, we make a lot of Magic stuff and we
We
don't
would
get to
love to do
do as
other things.
much. Yeah, we don't get to do as much of the other stuff as we can or that we used to be able to do. And I think we've been able to find a pretty good balance over the last couple of years of sort of making sure that everybody is fairly, invested in everything that we're doing, and even bringing in people to help out on the Magic stuff who aren't necessarily Magic players themselves. But yeah, I mean, to see where this game has taken us has been just an absolutely wild ride to go from, just playing Magic again because of those booster packs to, producing the PPR and Friday nights.
Or
And as
even
you said,
remember
all the
what was
other
that?
stuff.
There was a PAX where Graham and Kathleen were doing the presentation for the next, like for the
Yeah. I mean,
Zendikar fetches. I mean, for
yeah, Graham, I remember, yeah, there
the
was
Return to Zendikar one.
I think Graham helped host that with Will Wheaton that one
Yeah,
time. That was wild. We've, there's a bunch of stuff behind the scenes at Wizards of the Coast that we've helped out with over the years that people don't even know about. I'm not going to get into it.
yeah, but like
It's
even
just
Unfinity, which people do know about.
yeah. And that's it. I mean, I'm not a part of that group of people, but to see Graham and Kathleen, and to a degree Cameron, although not as much now, but they've all been literally working on creative text for
Isn't
Magic the
that
Gathering
crazy?
for years now. Like, they're naming, like Graham and Kathleen especially are literally like naming Magic cards. Like cards are being printed that they came up with, which is wild.
Isn't
Again,
that
like
cool? Isn't it wild?
the the amount of headway we've been able to make into this community in this game is like kind of insane when I think about it sometimes. Like,
Did you go to? You went to Barcelona, right?
yeah, I was in Barcelona.
Because I was talking to Serge about this, and he was like, "Man, it is wild walking around and having people here in Europe know who we are."
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't as surprised by that. I mean, again, Loading Ready Run, we've been around for 20 years.
I guess, yeah.
And YouTube analytics are a thing, and I can see that a good number of people from the UK and Germany, especially, I think those are like 4 and 5 on our list, in terms of where our viewership is from. So I knew going to Spain that I think that we were going to see a good number of people turn out, and we did. It was fantastic. It was really
I mean,
nice.
it's still though, it's still just like, I guess I'm still new to this where I walk in and I'm still gratified when I'm like, "Oh my god, people know who I am." But
Oh, I mean, that's like the fact that people still. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. It's I expected it. I figured it was going to happen. I'm not used to it. I don't take it for granted. It's
right.
still wild to me that people will line up for over an hour to say hi and shake my
That's
hand and
so
ask
weird.
for an autograph. And like I don't think that ever goes away. Honestly, I believe that for, you know, all the way from you and I, who, sure, you put us in the right room of a couple thousand people, we're extremely well known, all the way up to somebody like, you know, Tom Cruise is probably a terrible example, but the most famous person I can think of, I feel like even he some days is like, man, it's weird that people really like me. Like,
Right?
why? I'm just a dude. I'm just a guy who likes to entertain people, and like, yeah, it's just, yeah,
It's super fun. I mean,
it's
it
super
was
neat.
funny at like, I think Minnesota, I was just like ambiently sitting at the LRR booth because I'm like, I need to sit somewhere and here's an empty chair and Beej knows me so he won't throw me out. And suddenly a line stands like shows up like, you know, there's an LRR line and then there's another line at the end of your table for me. And I'm just like, I'm not even
I
on
don't work
screen. I'm
here.
just sitting here. He throws me a pen. He's like, well, here you go, man. It's
Yep,
like,
get to
okay.
work.
It was it was surreal. It was super weird. Um Man. So, what is working on the PPR like? Because like working with wizards is a very complicated and like sometimes touchy issue because they get very picky about things and they're
Hmm.
very particular about how they do things.
Yep.
Um, and I feel like a lot of people don't really understand what goes into trying to put on something that is so like covered in security, right? Because they're giving you packs and stuff well before they
Yep.
get out to the public. So can you like talk us through kind of how this like how do you set this up? Like how's it go?
So, I mean, I guess let's rewind a little bit back to how it became to be, which is I had this idea, which was literally just, what if you, Wizards of the Coast, gave us product a week early and we could play with it. I mean, that was kind of the long and
Yeah,
short of it, right? Like, I think it was early 2016. It might have been late 2015. I emailed Trick, who is Trick Jarrett. You probably
love him.
know, or you probably have heard the name before. Still very much an employee at Wizards of the Coast. He's been an incredible friend and champion of us for years and years. Love the guy to death. And so I emailed him sort of out of the blue one day, and I was like, "Hey, this is the idea. Pre-release, the week before the pre-release, we'll bring up some creator friends. We'll host like an 8-round tournament because that's how it started. It was like a
Yeah, it
proper
was so
seven
funny.
seven round tournament, single elimination. So there was a winner of the first 2 PPRs, I think,
Poor
before we were like,
Jimmy.
yeah, poor, yeah, yeah. Um, before we were like, this is a bad idea. We need to just do round
Swiss
robin,
rounds.
basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
Swiss rounds. So I was like, but either way. So I was like, how about we do this? And he thought about it and he's like, that's a fun idea. Let me talk to some people. And like 2 months later, it's Shadows over Innistrad in 2016, and we're doing it. You know, we brought up it was Jimmy, it was Marshall, it was Athena, and it was Kenji. And
Mm,
then I think it was Graham, Kathleen, Cameron, and Adam, who were the 4 Loading Ready Run crew members. We did a 7-round single elimination thing. There was a winner. Jimmy got knocked out in the very first round, so he didn't get to play again. And then that happened again, I think the next time or like
yeah.
the time after that. I
Like it
don't
was like yeah,
remember.
exactly. It was the other there was like the first and the third one or something.
I guess I have. Yeah, it was no, it was the first and the second one
Mm.
because it was Gabby, Prof, Allison, Jimmy, and Marshall came up for the
Oh
second
man,
one for
Allison, that
Eldritch
was so
Moon.
funny.
Yeah, and so Jimmy lost in the first round both times, and we were like, okay, hold on. We're paying for this guy to come up. We're putting him up in a hotel. We're feeding him all week, and we're asking him to play one game of Magic. This is a terrible idea. So we instituted the Jimmy Wong rule, and we went from 7 rounds to 8 rounds. We have since gone back down to 6 rounds because 8 was just way too many.
Yeah, you got to go until like
Um,
midnight. It was forever.
yeah, it was too much. And so we instituted the Jimmy Wong rule. We went down to 8 rounds. Everybody got to play twice. Nice
Yes.
and simple.
I think it's also
Um,
much better in the grand scheme for
oh
viewers
yeah.
and stuff. And
Well, it's also just much more in keeping with the vibe of the pre-release, which is what we are
Mm.
meant to be marketing. Like, at the end of the day, the PPR is an event put on by Wizards of the Coast and us as a marketing tool to get people excited to go to their local game store and play in
Yeah.
the pre-release the week after. And we kind of quickly realized, wait, we're not really mimicking the feel of that. We want this to be a lot more chill. We want this to be a lot more just laid back. And that's when we got into like the Ariel Axe joke of the way we judge it, and
Mhm.
making sure that everybody gets to play twice and stuff like that. So we started in 2016, and I would say for the first couple of years, it was extremely easy. I mean, I will say this about Wizards of the Coast: over the last 13 years, that company has changed a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. They are a significantly different company than they were 13 years ago when we first started working them, or even 7 years ago when we started doing the PPR. And I know that a lot of those changes have been for the better, and I know that inside things run smoother and better now than they ever have before. But it has absolutely made getting things done with them a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Things need a little bit more time to bake. It's not quite so run and gun as it used to be, where I can pitch trick this idea and 2 months later we're doing that. I think if I pitch the PPR today,
It would take like 6 to
it's
8.
either not happening, or it's going to take 6 to 8 months to get off the
Yeah,
ground.
you'll be like 2025, you can do the first one.
Exactly. And fair. They're a gigantic corporation now, a lot of moving parts. I do not fault them for this at all. So the first couple of years were very easy. It's gotten, there's been ups and downs in terms of like there are certain parts of the history of the PPR where I feel like they weren't paying as much attention to us as they maybe should have been, but I think that's also because maybe they just were like, you're good. Like,
We
we've been
trust you,
working with
go
you. So
handle.
yeah, and that's a really nice thing to have, is like, we do absolutely have Wizards of the Coast trust, and that's something that we value a lot and take a tremendous amount of pride in. And so, there's been ups and downs for sure, but over the years, it's been an extremely good and healthy working relationship. And I guess like how it works, I mean,
Well, so I guess more detailed. So for instance, if you were trying to pick a roster to come up, is it names that they're giving you, or are you giving them names?
so the way that it works now, and it has changed a few times over the years, but the way it's been working this year is, at the start of the year, I sat down and I put together a list of I think it's about 25 people on the list. I sent it to my contact at Wizards of the Coast. They said, everybody here is fine. Literally, they didn't say no to anybody on my list this year. And I said, great. And I've been just working off that list for the entire year. So
Nice.
everybody that has been at a event in 2023 has been approved by Wizards of the Coast near the start of the year. So
Like in the past, were they ever like, here's a list of the people we would like you to have or try to get for this?
I mean, there has been times over the years where like, hey, it would be great if you could get this person for this particular PPR. There's been times, it used to be that, and I'm hoping that we might start seeing, we just had Chris Mooney up from Wizards of the Coast, and they were fantastic.
Yeah, getting more
Um,
WotC people would be fun.
yeah, and we used to
At least
always have
one
a
regular.
rotating WotC cast. It used to be four of us, three creators, and one WotC representative. And then that kind of died out during the pandemic, and now I think it's slowly getting back, which is great, because it's really fun to get people who are just really passionate about the game
Yeah.
and the thing that they've created. Like, having Chris up was just so much fun, because they were lead vision on the set,
Yeah,
and
so a lot
they
of
just had
stories to
so
tell.
many, yeah, so many stories, and just so excited to share this thing with the world that they made like a year ago, and like they've almost kind of forgotten bits and pieces about. So it's like this great combination of like excited to finally share it, but also, oh hey, I forgot about this, or oh, this is neat, this changed since the last time I saw it.
And
But
Mooney is a really
the
enthusiastic person
oh,
with a lot of
Mooney
such
is
fun stories.
fantastic. Holy moly. I honestly, they remind me of Mark Rosewater a
Yeah.
lot.
Yes.
And like, honestly, that building could use all the Mark Rosewaters they could get.
I
Hot
mean,
take.
it's important to have people who love the thing they do.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
one of the most fun, I think, PPRs ever was the unstable one
Yep.
where it was two-headed giant versus Cam or something, and
Yep.
you're underneath, or like when you're under the table or
Yep.
whatever. I mean, like, I
Eh,
love that people are just always. Can I need to close my window.
Yep.
There are people hammering outside. I guess it's only gonna do so much. I'll edit that later. Yeah, but it's more like it's fun when people are super game and super excited and super happy to be there because 'cause you've had a couple of guests who were just kinda cold fish or didn't know what they were doing, or I
Sure.
mean, it
Yeah.
happens because 'cause they're just not content creators, they're just
Yep.
other people who are peripherally related to Magic and stuff,
Yep.
and it was like,
Yeah, no, it's really have
try to
it's
have
so
fun,
much
man.
fun having those passionate people. Honestly, I like I don't know how Mark does what he does. It puts up with so much crap from the community. It's just unreal. But like, if there's one thing that I could say about Mark Rosewater is I have never in my life met somebody who loves this game more than Mark Rosewater
Oh,
loves
yeah.
this game. It's absurd. Like,
All he wants is for people to
all,
be happy.
yes, yeah,
And it's like, "Look,
absolutely. All he
sometimes it
wants is
doesn't
just
work."
people to love this game and have fun with it. And
Yeah.
oh, it's just
It's
sometimes it is
heartwarming, it's
truly
fun.
heart. It's also heartbreaking sometimes
Yeah,
to just see the
because
amount of
sometimes
crap
it
that he has
doesn't
to put up with.
and sometimes they just miss, and when he misses and you
Yeah.
put all your in you put yourself into this thing, you're like, "Man, that one just wasn't great."
Yep.
Like, I had a bad experience with Unfinity, and I was talking to him about it on my show, and you could just see his face just fall, and I was like, "I don't wanna break your heart, Mark, I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
but this one just didn't land with me, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
Um, so God, man, I've been lucky enough to be on 2 PPRs, like, you guys brought me for the Ravnica one and then brought me back for Baldur's Gate, which was one of the
Yeah.
most
Oh,
fun
that's
things ever.
right. Oh my God. That was a
Like, you brought me up, like you're like, "I need you here on Tuesday," and I'm like,
that was a that and that was
"Okay."
a that was a rough one.
Yeah,
So that I mean, here's a
that
fun
was
story for you. Everybody loves a good cancer story, right?
I was gonna say, it was
So we were contracted in 2022 to create. It wasn't a PPR in the traditional sense. It was more like release content, basically for
Baldur's Gate.
the Baldur's Gate, the Commander uh, Legends, whatever it's called. I can't remember
Yes.
the
Battle for
the
Baldur's Gate.
draftable thing. It phenomenal set. Can't remember the name of it, but honestly, one of the greatest draft sets in the history of the game. Anyways, we have Ailey and we have Shivam come up to record a draft and then the two games. And in the weeks leading up to um, this event, Graham had been going through a pretty rough time with his health. He just wasn't feeling great. He was in pain. They couldn't kind of figure out what was going on. And then the day, I think it was the day you came up, or it was the day of recording. No, I think it was the day
It was the day I
before.
came up.
Yeah, we, and by we I only mean like me and I think Paul, Kathleen, and Beej maybe, because he wasn't quite ready to share it with everybody else. We were also literally recording that day, and we didn't want to kind of ruin the day. We wanted to make sure that the video was actually going to be good. But it was literally the day that he found out he had cancer.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, he's fine. But it was a pretty rough day for a
Yeah,
few
because
of
I
us.
remember
And
meeting you there, and you
yeah,
had, like, poker face, hardcore. I was like, "Oh, where's
yeah,
Graham?" He's like, "Oh, he's under the weather." I'm like, "Okay."
yeah,
Here's the thing that's funny, like, I was texting with Kathleen before because I was planning to go to their house and tape
yep,
with her her Brave New Faves, and we were gonna hang out and just, have a grand old time or whatever, and I'm on the ferry because I was having my own nightmare of journey trying to get to Victoria in the first place. It was also the day of the first terrorist, potential threat at the Victoria airport, so everybody had
oh, that's
excitement and
right. Oh
shut
my
down the
god,
airport.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So when I was on the ferry trying to get there, and I'm texting with Kathleen, I'm like, "All right, yeah, can I come see you?" She's like, "It's not a good day.
Yeah.
Can we like we could maybe let's reschedule, please? I hope you don't mind." I'm like, "Sure, man." And she's like, "Oh, by the way, please pray for us." And I'm like, um,
Please pray for us. Wow,
whatever
that's a very
whatever you
un-Kathleen
need,
thing to
man."
say.
Yeah, I was that was when I knew that something was desperately and very wrong,
Yeah,
because that's
wow.
not something you just spring on me. I mean,
Yeah.
mind you, I'm a priest. That is something people spring
That's
on me.
true, actually. I guess maybe she thought about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that is literally the one thing I'm very capable of doing,
Yeah.
but it's also like, this is not the vector I was expecting this comment from.
Yeah.
Something must be terribly wrong.
Yep.
But I'm
And
discreet and I
I mean,
left it alone.
it kinda was.
Yeah,
But yeah, we got that. I mean, those videos turned out great.
it was hella
That
fun,
was a
man.
fun one. Yeah.
It was hella f I mean, f all things aside, the fact that it was still the most insane whirlwind I've ever had of, like, I still had to leave for, like, a COVID test. I was there for, like, less than a day or like a day and a half, and
Yeah.
you still had to go get a COVID test
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get me
yeah.
out of the country. It
Yep.
was so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was awesome, and I've had a great time both times. I would love to come back. What do you feel about the fact that a lot of people started to look at like the PPR as if it was almost like a replacement for the content creator? Like, you remember how like Wizards used to do the community cup,
Yeah.
and
It's
like,
funny. This is literally what we talked about this earlier today on the
oh,
podcast I mentioned.
geez, I'm sorry.
So no, no, no. It's so funny that
Oh,
you brought it
for
up. So
it's funny because this show is going to probably come out the week of October 13th.
oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So
anniversary week. I don't know if that episode will be out
no,
around
but
then,
I'm
but
just saying
that
this
would
will
be
be
amazing.
like a good tie-in for you.
That's a great tie-in. Yeah, so Wizards of the Coast starting in 2009 it was called the Community Cup. And it was for the first couple of years, it was really focused around Mitgo creators.
Yeah.
Like it was very, very laser focused at sort of like it was almost kind of like a hey, thanks for creating content and content back then, meaning like articles, occasional gameplay videos, although they were I think fewer and far between in that period of time, although they were starting to pick up steam, and just general like ambassadors and people who really
Yes.
push that game. And so in 2011, Graham was invited to be on the Community Cup, and I went up with him and we recorded a behind the scenes video. It's a ton of fun. Met a bunch of great people. That's where I've met Marshall, who is probably one of my closest friends in sort of the Magic community. It's where we met Luis for the first time. It's
You know, I went to college with Luis.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I was 2 years ahead of him, and he was
Okay.
a much better Magic player than I am, so I didn't run into him very often,
To be
but I
fair,
definitely saw him.
he's a much better Magic player than most everybody, so
Yeah.
but yeah, so we went in 2011, we went in 2012, I was on the Community Cup team, the only team to ever lose to Wizards of the Coast, by the way. That's my claim to fame. And then in the subsequent years, 2012, 13, 14, 15, they kept inviting us back up to sort of be a part of the coverage and like the production of the actual show. It started to sort of it got a little bit bigger. I remember it was at PAX one year, which was kind of weird. I think that might have actually been the last year.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely the Community Cup was an absolute 100% inspiration for the PPR. Like I loved the idea of it, but I thought it could be a little bit better. I thought it could happen a little bit more often. It's why there was always a member of, or why I always liked having a member of Wizards of the Coast there to kind of still have that feeling of bringing together the people who make the game with the people who love and create content around the game.
Mm.
And yeah, it was just without question, sort of the precursor to the PPR.
Yeah, because like one of the things is amongst like my content creator pals is when you get picked for a PPR, it literally feels like you won Top Chef or something. You're like, oh my God. And like, confetti starts sprinkling down. You feel like you've been chosen. You get a trip to Victoria, which is like going to Valhalla. You get to have an awesome time. You come home with the little PPR alumni pin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's the coolest thing in the world. And of course, once you come back, you're like, all you want to do is go back.
Yeah.
And then you're like, but no, I need to let other people have a chance. No, I don't. But
Yeah. I
I
do
do.
I though? I don't think so.
Yeah. And then you end up having a Gollum like conversation with yourself about like, but do I need to
Yeah.
give that back? Yeah.
I mean, I would love to have. I mean, we've had. I did the math the other day. I think we're at 42 of these now,
That's
or
insane.
something like that. I think we've done 42 or 43. We've had about 75 different guests come up for it. A big goal for me personally this year was having a completely brand new set of guests. Nobody repeats. That was a big goal for us this year, and at the moment
I
we've
think it's
done it.
really, really important.
And it's so nice, and especially over the course of the pandemic, so many new creators came
Yeah.
up
It's like there was
through
a
the
whole nother
ranks.
blossoming of
Yeah.
like magic fans of people who are just children now. Like,
Yeah, like I really do feel like just Magic content creator old guard at this
right?
point. I remember going to when I went to Vegas last year for MagicCon, or it was Magic 30. and meeting a bunch of these people who I had known because they were creators, but had never met because we hadn't been to a convention in 2.5 years. And just being like, oh, damn, there are so
A
many of you,
lot
and
of
you're
them.
all so much younger than I
Well,
am.
think about, like, even, like, you had Chase on last time,
Yeah.
and Chase is young, almost as old as LRR is.
Yeah.
That's, like, when you're like, "Oh, no."
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Uh, but no, I mean, I think it's incredibly important, incredibly just thrilling to see people get a chance to, because so many of us have used, like, PPRs as a springboard to get in, or like even profs like Shuffle Up and Play or whatever, just like these sort of things have become springboards to get us into the notice of people who would never pay attention at all.
Yeah.
So whenever people like come to you like, how should I do, what if I play bad, I'm like, play as bad as you want, just make sure you come off as a good person
Yeah.
and that
Oh,
people like
absolutely.
to watch you
Yeah.
and that are entertained by you. Then it doesn't matter if you win or lose because it's a PPR, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, we're all gonna win. um God, it's real hot here.
No worries.
um yeah, but that's enough about the PPR though, because like it's such a cool and such a fun thing to do.
It is. It
But
is
like,
honestly my favorite thing I get to do.
yeah, I mean, you get to drag out your van and take people to Benny's and take them on a tour of
Yeah.
Victoria.
It's wild to it's actually kind of reignited my love of the city too.
Mm,
There is nothing better to really remind you of how cool the city you live in actually is, because all of us are just like, it's Victoria, it's
yeah,
just, it's where I live, it's where I've always lived. None of this is exciting to me anymore, but every 2 or 3 months showing 3 new people around the city and getting to experience it through a fresh set of eyes has been so incredible and
that's
just
what
so
I do
uplifting. I love
in
it.
San Francisco when my friends come up, and I'm like, we're gonna go get these foods and we're gonna go see these things. We're gonna go on this circuit, and it's super cool. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh yeah, I do live in a really cool place. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And like, I mean, even when I came up to Victoria just as vacationer, it was super cool that like we got to hang out a little bit and
Yeah.
just chill. I really want to come back and do more EDSCs though. Those were so much fun.
They are a lot of fun. Yeah.
Um, so before we go though, I do want to ask you about your actual streaming. Uh, because, well, actually, two things. One is, one of my favorite moments of you specifically is when you guys decided you were going to play poker and you called Marshall up and had Marshall on the phone
Oh God.
while you were actually trying to play
That
real
was
poker.
so long ago.
Yeah, and he's like walking you through, and he's like, you're looking at the guy's hands, and he's like, okay, well, this guy is bidding here, which mean, and he's doing the Marshall thing of like, commentating and
Yeah.
teaching at the same time. And I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Marshall Sutcliffe applying his immense powers of magic, like commentary, to an entirely different game.
Yeah.
And I guess that's also why his watch videos work so well, because I'm like, oh man, you can teach us, you could read literally
Yeah.
anything and I'll pay attention.
Yep. Pretty much.
But yeah, man, when you guys are like, because you're in Canada, so you can actually gamble, which was like hilarious.
That was dude, that was so
Like
long
6,
ago.
7
I
years ago
can't
or
believe
something.
you remember that. Yeah,
Oh, it's one of my favorite, like,
that was in Moonbase Delta. That was Moonbase 4. And that was on the show 18 Games and Counting that Paul and I used to do. Which I
yes.
still love. The conceit of the show was fantastic. We'd get to the office at 8 a.m. and we would look to see what the 18th most popular streamed game on Twitch was at that moment. And then we would spend the hour making sure that we could download and play it. And then we would play it. And one morning we hit poker. When that was actually, I don't even know if you're
You're not
I
allowed
think
to do that on Twitch anymore.
you can still play poker, but you can't really do like online gambling and stuff like that anymore. I don't
It's
think.
real tricky.
It's a little weird because we played we played in-house poker like a couple months ago, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, that was, oh my God, that was so long ago. I'd forgotten about that. That was a great stream. That was a really good stream.
It was really cool. It was really fun to
Yeah.
watch. I don't know. I that's why I love the streams where you guys do like glurp. Glurp is probably my favorite recurring moment on show now. It's just like, we're gonna play garbage time, or
Yeah.
when Alex sits and plays like the worst crap on Steam. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, those are fun. So, but one of the things that, the way I really got to know you though, is that like Serge got, like, my son got me into Minecraft over pandemic.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, well, I should learn this because I'm dad. I need to know how to do the thing, and I need to look cool to my son. So I need to be able to say like, of course I know what, goo is or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
And so like I'm like, Serge, teach me how to play Minecraft. And Serge taught me how to play Minecraft. He like literally set time aside and gave me a full like hour and a half lesson over Zoom
Yep, that sounds
teaching me how
like
to do this.
Surge. Yep.
And I was like, okay, well, now I'm just gonna start watching Serge play Minecraft. And then Serge is like, I'm sending you to James's stream. And so I sat and started watching you play Minecraft, except you don't play Minecraft. You dig a
No,
goddamn hole for
I
4
dig a
hours and listen
very
to
big
good
hole.
music.
Yeah.
And then I was like, this is the best thing in the world to work to. It's
Yep.
just ambient music in the background while you're just chatting with your friends and hanging out. And every now and then I look and I'm like, yep, the hole is still there. Hole is
Yep.
going deeper.
It's gotten bigger. Yep.
What the how have you made a career out of digging friggin' holes every day?
So okay, so it's
Like
not
you're not
every
a
day. It's
gopher,
Monday.
man.
It's Monday. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I think I would die if it was every day. So I can't remember. It was a random Saturday. It was God,
Like
2016 or something
when did
like
you
that.
discover Minecraft? Way early or something?
Oh, I started playing Minecraft in 2009. I started playing Minecraft before it was officially released. I actually discovered it via Penny Arcade. They got into it in the like beta alpha phase, and a huge number of people started playing it because of those guys for sure. So I
Yes.
started playing it then, and I've played it a bunch throughout the years. And then it was a random Saturday in, I think, 2016. We were filming something at Loading Ready Run. I have no memory of what it was. There were too many of us there. I was literally just sitting around doing nothing. They didn't need me. I walked into our video game streaming room. I turned on the stream. I booted up Minecraft, and I started digging a chunk. And a chunk is a 16 by 16 block of
Entirely vertical through the map.
yeah, so it's a 16 by 16 cube. Like every Minecraft is made up of a bunch of blocks. This is 16 by 16. It's how it renders the game basically, and it goes all the way down to the very bottom of the world. And I just started digging, and I started making up silly rules to make it just kind of stupid for me to be able to do this. And I streamed it for 3 hours, and I made it about halfway, and I was like, this was kind of fun. I actually enjoyed this, so I'm going to come back tomorrow, or it might have even been later that day, and finish it. And I did, and the Punch-a-Chunk was born. And the following year, Serge and I did a 1v1, like we went head to head against each other. We brought our computers into the office.
I love watching those.
And we raced to see who could get down to the bottom. Serge, I think, won the first one, or maybe I did. I can't remember. And then we did it the following year, and the other person won. And then since then we've done a third and final one, which I did win, so I'm the best. And we did a 2v2 during the pandemic, and it's a whole thing.
My favorite was the one where you guys made Serge run out to a convenience store, buy snacks, and come back.
Oh yeah, that was I think that was the second one. So anyways, at the end of 2019, I started to have this weird idea in my head that I should do the Punch-a-Chunk every day for 1 year. I should do the 365-day stream challenge.
Jesus.
And I realized pretty quickly that I just didn't have the bandwidth for that. Like I couldn't possibly stream on my own home channel every single day while also having the responsibilities I have at Loading Ready Run.
And your family?
Yeah, and my family. I would have burned myself
out. Your wife would be like, "What?"
Yeah, so I would have burned myself up. So I thought about it some more, and I'm like, I know what I'll do. I'll do it for a month, and not only will I do it for a month, I will do it for the shortest month. So in February of 2020, I set out to punch a chunk every day for 1 month, and then I would be done. Maybe I would keep going from time to time, but I would probably be done. I got through the month. I had a ton of fun. It's a very weird thing to do. Like it's a tremendously stupid way to play Minecraft. You're not even really playing Minecraft, but it's an excuse to stream, to have chat there, and to listen to music. I am a huge music fan. It's like, if I could only choose one
I didn't even get to show you all the records that are directly behind me.
Yeah, that's awesome. If I could only choose one sort of media format to experience for the rest of my life, it would be music. And so I love sharing music with people, and the music that I love, and also learning about new music. And so for the first month, every day I listened to 2 albums that I genuinely love. So by the end of the month, I had listened to about 60 albums and got to share them with my audience, and it was so much fun. And the month ended, and
I've discovered a lot of music because of you.
Yeah, and that's awesome. That's what I love to hear. And then so I ended, and I was like, you know what? This has actually been kind of fun. I think I'm going to keep doing it Monday and Fridays. I think I'm going to keep doing it 2 days a week, really early so I wasn't interfering with my own personal schedule for Loading Ready Run or any of the other guys who were streaming. I loved being able to raid them at the end of my show. I'll keep doing this at 7 a.m. until like 9:30. 2 weeks later, in March of 2020, we all know what happened. And I found myself at home every day.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I guess maybe I can do this more often because now I have quite a bit more time on my hands. So for the next year, I streamed every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 7 a.m. until 10 a.m., digging holes, listening to music, creating a tremendously weird Minecraft world. And honestly, it becoming like an enormous boon to my mental health throughout that year. Like I think everybody found different ways to handle
I started this
that
show.
first year. Yeah, to handle handle that first year of the pandemic. And digging holes in Minecraft ended up being mine, and I kind of have just kept doing it. And so now I've been doing it for 3.5 years, and I do it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 3 hours in the morning.
And you have
First
a
thing,
solid community that
I
comes
have
and
I
watches
have a
you dig
great,
holes.
great little community who comes and watches. We listen to music. They recommend music now. It's not just me who's throwing music out.
I have so many musics I want you to play, but like trying to get those slots is so
They're
damn
hard. Yeah, because so the way it works is you can spend channel points to recommend an entire album, because that's personally how I love experiencing music. I love sitting down and listening to an entire record. And so every stream, one recommendation opens up for somebody to grab and recommend me a whole album. Something that we've actually been doing for the last couple of months, which has been super popular and a lot of fun, which has been the making a playlist. So at the end, the last stream of every month, I open up 25 slots for a single song and I create a Spotify playlist. And then we listen to that, which is another great way of just experiencing a bunch of new music. So I don't know how I can keep doing it. Like I was just talking about this morning with my community while I was streaming. Minecraft is hands down the game I have now played the most of any game in terms of hours spent, and the majority of those have been digging a hole, and not in even the most efficient way that you can dig a hole in Minecraft. Like there are ways to do it faster, and I purposely do it slower because I just like doing it. I just like slowing it down.
The thing about it that gets me, and the reason I keep watching even, is because I was like, why am I watching a dude just dig a hole endlessly, ambiently? And what I realized is that there's a Zen meditation to it.
Yes.
It reminded me
100%.
of, there was do you remember PAX 2009, where everybody had our 3DSs or original DS or whatever, and Dragon Quest 9.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the Dragon Quest 9 summer, we were all going around and we're walking through PAX and we're passing maps back and forth because it's like the nerd nut Valhalla of just like the greatest time when we could just have these endless transfers back and forth. I miss that a lot. But yeah, like there was this map where you would basically go and there'd be a bunch of king slimes that would just spawn and you would just try to kill them. And I spent hundreds of hours just chilling and like killing these big slimes with critical hits or whatever. No real reason for it. Like I've well and beaten the game. But I realized that there's a meditation in the repetition, in the focus, in the calm of what you're doing. It allows your mind to disengage from this action and handle the rest of what you're doing. It's kind of like why when you look at Buddhist monks or stuff, they've got these like techniques of like, I'm just counting grains of sand, or I'm pouring water in from one cup to another, like, or just doing some manual something that is just repetitive and mindless, such that my mind can then allow itself to heal and chill out. And I'm like, watching you dig a hole is literally that same thing. You're just like, you've got this on automatic. You can just sit there, you've got your fingers. If I like put a blindfold over you, you could still dig that same hole and know exactly what to turn and what to do, because you could just hear the clicks and just do it. And that muscle memory just allows you to just take stock, take a moment and just understand where you are in life. And I think that is so important to do. It's like when people sit and do yoga in the morning or something like that, you're just like, I'm digging a hole for 2 hours and then I'm refreshed and I can go about my day.
Yep. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Super important, man.
Absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to call, I think, because like there's other things I would love to talk to you about, but yeah, the hammer guys are starting to hammer again. So I'm like, okay, maybe I don't want to waste too much of your time.
You can have 5 rapid fire questions if you want.
Okay, let's see what I got.
All right.
What's your favorite thing to show people in Victoria?
drive around the coast and then up in behind the university up to Mount Talmy, and then you can sort of see the entire city, and I can kind of show you exactly where we drove around.
That's sweet. Um, which has been your favorite PPR?
Oh, probably the was it unstable or
Yeah,
whichever one that was
with Wedge and with
with
Maria.
Wedge and Cam and Mark and the Shahrazad. That
Oh
it's
my
just
god,
it's timeless.
it's
Either
so
that
perfect.
or Tappy and her damn pocket bacon.
Goddamn pocket bacon.
Pocket
Oh my
bacon's
god,
very good too.
I can't believe Cam did that. Like,
Yeah.
Cam was a vegetarian and
Yeah.
still is a vegetarian, and
Oh yeah.
he just went with the bit and was just
Yep.
like, "I'm going to be so sick later."
Yep.
But that is one of the greatest memes I've ever seen in my
It's
life.
a very good it's a
Oh
very
my
good bit.
god, it's so good. Um, what's your favorite thing to do when you're off stream?
My favorite thing to do when I am
Or
off
like
stream,
when you're on your own and you're just like, I want to relax and not think about things or anything. What do you do?
I listen to records.
And I guess corollary, what's your favorite record to listen to?
Ooh. I mean, there's a lot. The one that I've been really enjoying recently is the second half of Foo Fighters in Your Honor.
Mm,
It's that double album from like 2005. It's all acoustic. I still love it. It's super chill.
my
Really, really
favorite
love that
is
one.
Metallica's S&M
Ooh,
because
yeah,
the way
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
broke that album up is so good. And
Yeah.
I mean, on vinyl, they're just so perfect.
Yeah.
Um, what's your favorite band?
My favorite band is, I mean, oh God, it's such the band of my generation, which is probably just the Foo Fighters. Like, I love that band. I've listened to them since they first existed. I've seen them live a bunch of different times. Do all their albums are they all amazing? No, but they're all consistently so much fun, and it's just a really fun band to listen to. I know it's such a boring
Yeah, but they're so
40-year-old
good.
white guy
You know,
answer,
I
but
used
like,
to think that, but, like, I
I
got to see Foo Fighters open for Metallica at one of those big, like, concert shows because 'cause I'm a diehard Metallica fan, and
yeah.
I'm, like, ambient Foo Fighters fan, but I was like, "These guys put on the" they put on, like, the most fun and energetic and just
Yeah.
lively show,
Oh, their shows are amazing.
and, I got to hang out with Dave Grohl at Metallica's recording studio because I was there for the album release
I
party of
think
Death Magnetic.
you've told me
Yeah,
about this story before.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, that dude is genuinely just the kindest guy you've ever met, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"I don't know
And he
how
just
this in my
loves
life."
and he's like the Mark Rosewater of rock music.
Literally that.
Yeah,
He just
he is that.
he wants you to be happy and wants you to be excited about the things he's excited about. It's like,
Yeah.
I would love to interview him someday.
Oh, that would be incredible.
What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Vanilla.
Vanilla. Okay,
Vanilla.
I'm a
French
pistachio guy.
vanilla. I don't know, man. Vanilla. Ice cream is that whatever, you know what my favorite flavor of ice cream is? Whatever's in my hand.
Fair. You know, that's fair and true. Last question, Road Quest. Do
Yeah.
you miss that car?
Every damn day. I don't know where it is. It's right there. For anybody watching right now, I am holding up the volume knob from Gandalf from Road Quest, which we recorded over 5 years ago today. And yeah, I do miss that car, especially in the summer. I never really got to like enjoy the
Being dead.
convertible in the summer in Victoria, which would have been great. Because originally the plan was to bring those cars home.
Yeah.
The plan was always to bring all three cars home. It was never going to be an abandoned mission. It just kind of ended up being that way because it was way easier.
Did you guys get to
But
drive
yeah.
home in Ian's truck?
No, because so Ian's truck was a rental that we had to give back.
Oh no.
Half of us flew home. The other half piled into the production vehicle and did the same drive that took us 10 days to get there in about 2.5 days back.
You know what was wild? Because when Grandma told me that, I realized that I drove like when I was a kid. My family and I drove from Massachusetts to California, so we took 2 weeks and drove across the country and stopped everywhere and saw everything. It was one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life. But then I was like, oh, if I just drove, I could do it in like 3 days. But
Yeah.
that's like, yeah, if you just don't stop and don't
Yeah, you don't
care,
enjoy the experience of
yeah.
everything that you have to see in front of you. Yeah,
Was Yukon really that as cool as you guys made it look?
that whole trip was as cool as I think we made it look.
It was
It's
amazing.
funny. I actually I watched the first 20 minutes of episode 1 last night because a bunch of people, now you as well, have been talking about rewatching it. I think it's that time of year. You know,
Yeah.
the fall is on its way. People kind of want that kind of like fun vibe going into the fall. And so I watched the first episode last night and I was like, oh, I can't believe we got to film this. Like,
I know, it's so cool.
This is such a cool freaking series. And I can't believe that we made this. And boy, do I promise you that we want to make more. So
I hope so.
I hope in the next few years we get to go do another one.
The other day, I was literally daydreaming of flying up to Victoria and seeing what it would be like for you guys to like do a road quest to drive down to San Francisco so I don't have to fly back.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool things to see, and it's
there
about
is a lot of cool
things.
We've done that. I mean, we've actually done that trip before in a minivan, or not in a minivan, in a mini bus. Back in 2007. That's a fun story. That we'll save that one for the next time I'm on the show.
Anyways, man. Okay, so if you wanted folks to find you, I guess where would they go?
I mean, look, go over to loadingreadyrun.com. You should find the link to everything that we do there, the YouTube, the Twitch, all that jazz. If you want to find me personally, I've kind of given up on social media. I'm not going to lie. I occasionally am over on my Instagram accounts, which is James_LRR. And if you want to come watch me dig a hole in Minecraft, twitch.tv/James_LRR.
And as always, my friends, you can find me at GearPreGears. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are sold, or at Cool Stuff Inc. on Tuesdays, or at YouTube on Tuesdays, thanks to my editor, EK. You can also see me on Shivaman Wheeler Love Magic, or on my other podcast, The Chronicles of Dragonlance, which comes out the first of every month. And remember, my friends, it's not magic without the gathering, and we will see you next time.